Hello. We'll see if we get any audience here working on our painting. We're going to start with this vase. Vase is green. Kind of we're going to say a soft green. So we're kind of going for a real loose painterly style. So I'm just going to keep that brush moving and swirling around. It's not often that I do a YouTube live. I'm usually over on TikTok. So we're just going to work until we see some folks stop by. Maybe they will. You just never know. Need to get that a little bit of black. Hang on. You're not supposed to use black. Well, we're doing it anyway. Breaking those rules. That's nice. Very nice. I don't know if people on YouTube but regardless, whatever happens, we'll get a painting going here that we could potentially sell, right? We want to sell some art for sure. Get a little more blue in there. A tiny bit of that brown. I think that'll make a nice shadow color right in there. Look at that. Nice shadows. Oh yeah, we like this. Starting to get some folks coming in. Welcome to my studio. Thank you for the hearts. I'm making a painting today of kind of a loosely painted still life is what I'm going on for here. My name is Raynor. You see R-A-Y-N-O-R. Everybody calls me Raynor. And I am an artist as well as an art teacher. I've been a professor for about 27 years. It's a long time to professor. So there's a lot of subtle green references going on in this vase that I'm excited. I can show you my palette if you're interested. This is what my palette looks like. It's just an old, I use a lot of old paper plates, which is silly, but it works for me. I know other artists use very fancy palettes. I've got this beautiful red apple that I'm gonna develop. I need another color and get a little bit of an orange going. So I'm not going far, just right here. Here's my orange. Get a little bit of that on the plate. That'll help us find that red apple that we're trying to get. So I think let's clean that brush good. And let's see if we can get a nice bright red. I really want this apple to make a statement. He's laying on his side. Too much of that white highlight there going on. He gets real dark over here, so we're going to bring a little dark into that. I'm just putting kind of something called raw umber is a good color to mix with. I want to get a nice dark area over here. This is the stem, so I'm going to find that. And all this down here is in shadow. Let's clean that brush. Got to keep that brush clean. I hope you're all having a great day. I hope today treated you well, wherever you are and whatever it is you're working on. Today was good for me. I am in my little art studio that I have outside of my house. There we go. So we're going to find some brush strokes in here, do a little blending. Try to find out where that stem lives. A little bit down here. You know, I've been an artist for a long, long time. And that's the way I express my creativity. How do you express yours? There's a little bit of a yellow in here. And that yellow continues down here along the bottom. And then, let's see, let's get a little more of that orangey color to go around. I'm having to do some intensive observation here. Sometimes it's hard to do intense observation and talk all at the same time. But I have some experience in this because when I did all the years I taught painting, I would do demos in front of the class and have to talk at the same time. So there's some blueberries in here, and I'm gonna see if I can develop these blueberries a little bit. And again, thank you for the likes. That's very kind of you. Just want to lay in some of this blue color. And then we'll go back and blend that out a little bit, soften that up. It's a little strong. Right. So our light source is over here. Everything goes into shadow. So we're going to try to find some of those shadows on those blueberries. Now my degree, I mean, if you're interested, I can tell you my degree is in painting and printmaking. So that was both my undergraduate degree as well as my graduate degree. And so I have always done art. Even when I was a kid, that's when I started. And let's do some shadows here. I know there's some shadows coming off of these various shapes. I want to make sure we capture that. And then there's a tablecloth in here. And there's a real rich, dark background in this painting. So we want to try to capture that. I'm going to get right up against that vase right there. Now, something you'll notice I'm doing is that I think it's important when you're painting to work the whole canvas at once. Because we have a tendency, I think as artists, we can get real fixated in one spot and we forget about the other spots. Wow, I got some fires down there. Thank you. And so by moving around, it forces you to see the entire composition. And that's easier said than done. I can tell you that from experience. So we're going to just keep jumping around here. Try to find all these shadows. Another thing you'll see me do a lot is I think it's important to constantly turn that brush. Keep that brush moving. I have a blueberry here I forgot about. Oops. That's okay. We'll get him back in. Now we're going to start working with some of this cloth. It's kind of a cool gray color down in here. And we're trying to suggest a lot of light on this table, but in a loose, brushy way is what I'm interested in. One of the things, anytime you do anything creatively, in my mind, one of the most important things is just to do it consistently. Work a little bit each day. It's almost like exercising. If you don't at first notice the benefits, but after a time, it starts to benefit you, and you feel better. Right, so we're suggesting this table with some cool neutrals is what I'm going for. You can see my palette here. I'm going for these cool neutral grays. I'm using about 5 or 6 colors in my painting. Doing something called scumbling here. It's where you leave a bit of a texture on the paint surface. This I'm trying to blend in a little bit more, so I'm scrubbing a bit here. Shadow here. Got a little highlight there at the bottom as well. This is one of my first YouTube lives. I do a lot of these on TikTok, and I could get thousands of folks. But I'm trying to build up a YouTube audience for me. I think that would be good. We want to make more friends. We want to form an artistic community. That's the goal. And I also like the idea of modeling what it's like to be a professional artist. Everybody thinks you have to starve to death and cut your ear off, but you don't. Those are myths. We want to dispel all the myths. Let's come back here. And a little bit of light in that background. I think that's too light. We're going to go a little darker there. There we go. Okay, we can get it real dark, because I want to really find this edge over here. There we go. We're starting to get a sense of where these shadows fall. There's some dark over there. I'm going to get that in. Get a little water on that brush. It's a little shadow. I keep saying little. Why do I do that? There's a shadow. And there's definitely some tones up here that I need to find, and I'm going to find the back side of that vase, that beautiful green vase. Let's find that. It's a little bit of a neutral with green in it. There we We're suggesting it a little bit. And there's a darker going along there. And then I think we could find the plant. Let's find the plant, the stem, right? There's a stem to this plant. Let's find it. For anyone who is entered in, my name is Raynor, just like Raynor or Shine, right? I got some info up here if you'd like to. I'd love to see you connect with me on Instagram or on TikTok. Those are places I have a good amount of TikTok followers. For whatever reason, and I haven't tried that hard on YouTube, but I'd like to. I'd like to get an audience here and TikTok. So we have a little bit of a plant starting there. And let's give another, need a little highlight in here, I think. A little highlight here as well. It's a little strong. The highlight going across here as well. Sometimes you have to finger paint, you know. All right, now let's find some greenery. Get a little water on our brush. That is too green. It is not like that. You know what we do when we make a mistake? We just fix it. That's what we do. So we have some greenery back there. Now remember, something I said earlier is I like to bounce around. Feeling like this doesn't feel right yet. I think that's a little better. Let's get a little bit of dark. Maybe a little cooler in there. I'm just mixing some colors. You can see what I'm doing. And there's something nice about just watching somebody paint. I'm sorry that it's a little glary and there's a lot of shadows. I'm not a lighting expert by any stretch. Now that's the color I was after right there, that bluish shadow is what I wanted. So that's what I wanted. Just brush around a little bit more there. Still don't, something about it here that doesn't quite feel right yet. Let's find. There's a shadow going off the front of this table. This makes a vague kind of triangular shape here. I'm going to do a few more lines here. Try to get rid of that underpainting. You can see that kind of floating around in there. Let's put some tone right around here. I forgot this little spot. These are blueberries. And I want them to feel like there's an intense light source floating around there. All right, I think that's starting to come around. I'm going to fill in some dark up around the top of that base. And I want it to have a bit of a cooler effect to it, so I'm putting some blue in that blackish dark color I've made. Here we go. Let's get a little more of that. So let's go a little darker. Is anybody in here an artist? I'd be curious to know if there's anyone else who makes art. Let me know. I'd be curious. I can find out. I think that's too strong too. We're gonna tone that down a little bit. But I feel like I'm starting to get some of the light effect that I want in this background. And we're going to tone this back just a little bit. Not too much, but just a little bit. Okay, I think I got a color that I like right here. There we go. There we go. I'm starting to get the feeling of that vase, aren't we? We sure are. And then let's see. This blue. Trying to find just the right tone for in here. There's a little hint of that red from that apple that goes that way too. There we go. Finding some structure in this thing finally. One of my bad habits is painting too much on the tape that goes around the painting. All right, let's get a little more dark in this background. I've gotten kind of a darkish bluish black. For me, it was a little warm back there. And that's not what I wanted. Let's get a little bit of a transition there. Just changed this a bit and added some more a little yellow to it. And then I can go back and put a plant in there. I'm trying to find those blueberries a little bit better. Over here, with a little more of that red. That's starting to look a little better. Bring this shadow all the way up. There we go. That looks a lot better. Now we're going to add just a tiny bit more of the red. Tiny bit. Putting just a touch of orange into that red. I really want that orange to help define this apple. Really trying to get a nice sense of contrast and a sense of form to that apple is important for me. I want it to feel three-dimensional. And I need to get this base more symmetrical, clearly. And I like how that's starting to tighten up a little bit. Starting to feel a little more like a table, maybe with a shelf behind it. Yeah, it's tightening up. We're getting some nice structure in there. Look at that, I have 5 people. Well, welcome 5 people. I know you keep hearing me say that if you've been here a while. But welcome to my art studio. I am so happy that you're here. We're going to need to do some adjusting up here in some of these areas anyway. So no time like the present, right? We're going to go a little lighter here. That was too light for me. Let's get that a little grayer. Neutrals are so important in any work of art. It's a fascinating thing. If you get all those neutral colors working together, it's amazing what can happen. Let's do a little more here. Curious, is it a hot day wherever you are? Sure, it was very hot here. I think tomorrow's the first day of summer, and it's really starting to feel like it around these parts. I love using a little tiny paintbrush. Don't know why, but just do. We're definitely gonna find these blueberries. them a little bit better in this scene. Because I have a thing about blueberries right now. Make this corner a little lighter. Just like that. And then make that feel more like a shelf. And then I'm going to come back in here a little bit. Let's find a little bit of a hint of color back here. Still has to be dark. Maybe something a little cast shadowy back there. Trying to soften that effect a little bit of the top front of that table. That feels to me like a little bit harsh. All right, folks, well, I think I'm going to stop here. Thank you so much for coming by my studio. Let me see if I can get you closer. This way you can see it. Sorry for all the wiggling and shaking there, my stand. But you're starting to get a sense of the overall painting and what it's doing. And so anyway, I'll peek in. Thank you so much for coming by. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon. I hope to do another one of these on Monday. So let's come back and paint some more. Bye.